By life, I'm here through him, seen by his eye as the only one to carry out this vision, my mission that God brought me here on earth to do. Chosen in him, selected for a cause, purpose to live, I place my will on pause to hearken and listen. Listen. I listen to the word, God's word that cuts through me like a sharp two-edged sword, speaking to me now, my life unfolds. God's mysteries to my heart, and I'm told of the reason why I live. See, I live to express God's desire. I am the utterance of his dream. I am the thought that fills his mind. I am a one of a kind spiritual act brought to this earth to leave an impact. In fact, to men I am not known. My path they cannot set, and my steps they cannot order.
Hi guys, welcome to the second episode of A Peek into Eswatini. I am still your host, Nombusi Mthethwa. Today our guest speaker is Pastor Thethe. He is the co-founder of GHP, he's the co-founder of Siya Police Stations, of Camp Sukuma. He's also passionate about the inner city youth in Eswatini. Our interview was still our very beautiful Spesihle Sivande. Let's get back to the studio and see what they'll be talking about today.
Hi guys, thank you for joining us as we peek into Eswatini. Thank you Nombusi for the beautiful introduction. As Nombusi has mentioned, today we are with Pastor Thethe.
Yay.
So much excitement. I'll let him tell us a bit about himself.
Greetings, viewers. I'm Pastor Thethe. Real name Thethe Dlamini. Thethe inherited name from the people I serve with. Born in 1973 at Thethe, south of Eswatini. Grew up in Manzini. Went to school in 5 different schools because my father was a teacher's inspector, so he was always going around. So I went to 5 different schools. But most of my growing up was in Manzini. Gave my life to Jesus 1996. Became a pastor 3 years later. Started a church 2009. I'm still doing that even now. Founded an arts ministry, established a camp ministry, which does annual youth camps. Yeah, I think basically that's that.
Thank you so much, Pastor Thethe, for joining us today. So let's start peeking.
Let's start
Let's
picking.
start peeking into Eswatini. How was it like growing up in Eswatini in the 70s,
In the 80s.
in the 80s?
I couldn't grow up in the 70s. I was too. The 70s, there's nothing I would remember.
You're still
Late
a babe.
17, I was still a baby. 79, that was when I have recollections of, because we were at Speaky, Pig Speak then. Yeah. So it's the 80s.
That was your
it was-
teenage life.
That was my primary school life. And then late 80s was my high school. Then 90s, college. And immediately after college, I went straight into, I'd say, church. So I know the church culture. So how was it? It was beautiful, man. It was beautiful. I feel like the country was then waking up to opportunities and getting to know who, as a nation, we were. I feel like it was when the late king was actually establishing himself
King
as
Sopuza
King
the second.
Sopuza. Yes, before the present
King
king.
Mswati.
Yeah, so when we grew up knowing that he was the wisest and the
Was
greatest
he
king.
wise?
I think it is because how he was able to preserve culture,
Mm-hmm.
embrace the dynamics that come with Eastern influence or Western influence, as in civilization and all that, and how he handled gaining independence. So all those stories that we didn't need to shed blood
Mm-hmm.
for our independence. It
Independence,
was done
yes.
on a table and all that.
Peaceful.
How he handled the transition. It's just that most of the democratic parties now are faulting that process because of how parties are not recognized in the democratic space in Swaziland or in the running of in the government of Eswatini. That's the political part which we woke up to in the 2000 era. Before that, it was just culture. Uh, okay, I think also it was when Mswati, the present king, took over because he was still a youth king.
Mm-hmm.
He brought Michael Jackson to Swaziland.
Mm-hmm.
He organized a concert, King's Trust concert, where he brought Peter Tosh.
Did you
Was,
attend
no, I
his
was too
concert?
young. I was too
Or you were
young.
watching on
I
TV?
watched it on television. We had television at home.
At that time.
Yay, yes. One of the few, one of, because being in the urban space and, being a teacher back in the day was a big thing.
Mm-hmm.
My father was a teacher's inspector. My mom was a teacher. So we
So back then, is it true that having a TV was somewhat of a luxury?
come along. Then it's become colored,
Eh.
not black and white.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. So we were having, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it
Mm-hmm.
was. When children from the neighbors come
It
watch
watch
television at your house.
Mhm.
Yeah, we
the
were.
excitement
Yeah,
from you.
yeah, and the kind of programs that
Mm-hmm.
we had then back then were of good quality because most of the programs were still brought in from England.
Mm-hmm.
So we would get their leftovers.
Um, Growing up in the 80s, what would you say is the difference with being a teenager now?
There was still, I say, the age categories were still distinct and clear.
Mm-hmm.
The behaviors of teenagers would be different from the behaviors of
Teenagers now.
adults.
Mm-hmm.
And we were not fully influenced by entertainment. We were still grounded in more cultural upbringing.
Mm-hmm.
So, as much as my parents were not traditional, but there was the Dlamini culture
Mm-hmm.
which I was raised in. My father was a Christian, and him
Great.
being a Christian taught me the Christian values. So I was able to practice family values because I wasn't
Mm-hmm.
really getting options from outside or opinions. I was
Mm-hmm.
just raised by, yeah.
Speaking on social media influence,
Mm-hmm.
in the 80s, you said it was not that much.
Yes.
So, looking at our teenagers now, we
Mm-hmm.
wear our crop tops, we are comfortable with them in public.
Mm-hmm.
How was it in the 80s? Was it the same?
I feel like the kind of influence, maybe if you could start, maybe go back to what we used to view.
Mm-hmm.
Television would start at maybe around
Mm-hmm.
3 p.m. at to 9 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
So like that was the television hours.
Mm.
The programming was very conservative. So it wasn't like what then happened later.
Mm-hmm.
Because the influence to young people's life actually came through music videos, through fashion.
Yes.
And that is because to keep the station running, that have a lot of these music videos
Mm-hmm.
playing throughout the day.
Did they? Yes.
So that was the first introduction of 24-hour television or the long hours. I believe the influence of television could have also influenced us. Only our programs were conservative because you'd go out and mimic or play a
What you've
character you
seen.
saw on TV. You see. So present day youth is bombarded with the influence of entertainment. And it's amazing, Spe, if you're to consider that educational programs, even from outside the country, would take about 6 months or even more to develop a program. But music videos and anything related to entertainment, it doesn't delay to be
That long.
introduced into the country. I mean, we knew about Snoop Dogg way before. I mean, I was still at high school when Snoop Dogg made it big. But that influence got in faster than some of the positive things that we could have learned from from overseas. I feel like that was because of how the dynamics of development in our culture were. So, as young people, everything was done in the conservative space. We were even our dating was conservative. Even our the way we do things, it was very conservative.
Conservative.
And the school culture was still prominent. If I was a good sports person, that would translate into even how I behave and all that. I used to love soccer. So it was easy to follow that line.
Have you ever, in your teenage years or even afterwards, felt like, I want to be on TV? Have you been?
I was on TV, Spare. There was a program, there was a program that was introduced by Swaziland Television. It had 12 episodes. It was a play. It was a drama.
Educational.
It was a book.
Okay.
It was what made it trend was because it was addressing a prominent issue on the system of marriage. It was either the traditional way of getting married or the civil way of getting married. So the story was addressing the conflict between the two cultures and how, in the process of appeasing both cultures, we try to then make a hybrid kind of wedding and or marriage, and then how that affected the whole thing. So it was a beautiful story. But that was late in my life. It was after I was a teenager, but I was on television. I know television fame. Other people really believed in the story such that they'd ask me about the characters
In the play.
on the play. Like, where is your wife? I'm like, I'm not married, but yeah,
Past.
yes.
Are you married? If yes, how long have you been married?
I've been married for 19 years. Got married in 2004, November 13.
Mm.
Yeah. Dun, 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 dun,
Congratulations.
dun, dun.
You said you were in a play that spoke on or was about uh, the two types of marriages in Eswatini, the civil rights and the traditional.
Yes.
Being someone who has been married for this long, do you think the values are still the same looking at both marriages?
As a Christian, I have a problem with humankind morality standards. Be it whatever culture, it's just disintegrating. We are really, really going down the drain. So I wouldn't prefer any. But the beauty of modern day culture is you can come up with your own culture. You can build your own culture. Like when I got married, I was able to play between the two cultures. I was able to get something from the church culture, get a bit from my traditional culture, and build my 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 marriage or wedding on that. Reason being, I was mature enough to know the advantages and disadvantages of both cultures. So I was able to make one.
Which would you say is more prominent in Eswatini?
Now, people are going back to understand that uh, the British way of civil rights marriage is not Christian marriage. So some Christians are going back and considering their traditional marriage. Only they pimp it up to make to make it look good, and they remove the ancestral worship from it. So they're able to customize it in a way that it serves them.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Traditional marriages, have you ever attended one? Can you tell us just a bit more what happens?
True traditional wedding, no, I
Mm-hmm.
haven't. The hybrid ones now I
Mm-hmm.
have, um, where you'd find that they would do the lobola,
Mm-hmm.
which is the traditional way,
Mm-hmm.
paying dowry and all that,
Mm-hmm.
and then they would go to church,
Mm-hmm.
extend vows, I mean exchange vows, and do the rings and all
Mm-hmm.
that. So it would be a mixture of
Of
traditional and
both.
white wedding.
Mm-hmm.
Those are prominent now.
Mm.
But there is a new culture that is developing where they are now doing the vows and the exchanging of rings in the traditional wedding.
Mm-hmm.
Only you don't know where, because you don't know where they sign. I mean, the document that will then
Their certificate.
identify, yeah, the
Mm-hmm.
certification of the marriage. Which one do they then prefer? But the festivity of the wedding now
Event.
is such that you'd have an old man come and think it's a traditional wedding, and a modern person come and say, "Oh, they've only." I mean, they go to the extent that they've removed the white dresses
Mm-hmm.
to,
To just full
yeah, to cultural
traditional. Mm.
beautiful dresses.
Mm.
I love it. I don't want to
I
lie.
also love it.
Right. I was raised by two parents, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, two teachers. My parents were both teachers, but my father was promoted to be inspector, and my mom was still a teacher. And back in the day, teaching was the profession,
Mm-hmm.
was the big profession.
Mm-hmm.
But then with civilization coming to the fore, the other professions
Mm-hmm.
started rising up in the community,
Mm-hmm.
where you'd find that
Professions like accountants,
accountant, yes, like
doctors.
all
Mm-hmm.
the other, because they replaced the privilege of being a teacher.
Mm-hmm.
Now being a chemist were being paid more.
Mm-hmm.
CA,
Mm-hmm.
chartered accountants were being paid more. So
Nurses.
that's those became the dream jobs,
Mm-hmm.
you know. So them being the dream jobs, they replaced the privileges that teachers used
Teachers
to
would
have
have.
back in the day. I saw that also being the change for how now people would fall back to teaching
Mm-hmm.
instead of pursuing their
Their dream.
dream careers. They'll then end up being teachers. That's another big change from the 1890s to the 2000
Mm-hmm.
and above. I started loving technical drawing
Mm-hmm.
and woodwork, which is
Mm-hmm.
carpentry now,
Mm-hmm.
and I was good at that. I just took liking. I loved that. So one of the dreams was I'll have a workshop,
Mm-hmm.
but I never had the idea of being employed. Like,
Mm.
so I
You've
always
always wanted
wanted
to be
to. I will
self-employed.
have, yeah, I'll have my own workshop,
Mm-hmm.
but it didn't last long.
So when your parents saw that, you know what, our boy is not going to be a teacher,
Mm.
he's passionate about arts, did they support you?
Not the arts.
Mm-hmm.
They supported my career choice of being a carpenter.
Mm-hmm.
My father actually even broke rules
Mm-hmm.
to get me into a vocational institute in Matsapa. It's called
Mm-hmm.
VOCTIM.
Mm-hmm.
For me to get there, I
It was
actually
heavy.
had to be the 13th student in the class
Mm.
because intake was done. So he had to pull strings with the principal because they were friends. So they added an extra. So I was hated even by the teachers because they knew that
You're not
this one
supposed to
was
be
brought by the
here.
principal.
Mm-hmm.
But I worked hard. I loved carpentry. It just came natural. I think the arts, I always tell people that being an artist should not confine you to one expression. I was good in making furniture, really, really good. But okay, now I mean, with the technology development of that, I don't think I'm relevant. But I was good at that. And then being a Christian and getting into full time ministry,
Mm-hmm.
that brought another passion, my calling. So
Mm-hmm.
my calling cho- took me away from art, took me away
Mm-hmm.
from
Mm-hmm.
soccer, took me away from carpentry.
But you still were able to use the two, your arts and your calling.
The beauty about being creative is you know no limit
Mm-hmm.
in implementing or applying your art or your skills. I mean, I'm now a pastor and I can brag to say I'm the only one who runs an art themed ministry.
Mm-hmm.
I
In
have the
Eswatini.
church, yes, in Eswatini, and I have an arts ministry that has been running for 20 years.
Mm.
I've been doing youth camps. I mean, arts ministry has been running for close to 30 years.
Mm.
I've been doing youth camps since 2004, 20 years. So that is being sustained by creativity more than dictated by the culture I
Mm-hmm.
live in. I've just been swimming upstream and I've been changing a
Mm.
lot of things. I mean, I'm a pastor and I look like this. Most
Mm-hmm.
pastors in Swaziland are suit and tie.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Speaking of you swimming
Upstream,
upstream,
yeah, man.
explain to us, Mfundisi, the different cultures. Like you are coming into um, being a pastor with your earrings,
Mm.
tattoos, arts, focusing on your youth.
Hmm.
And then there's the Eswatini cultural pastor with the
Yes.
suit and the tie and no earrings. How is that?
Maybe if I can give us a bit of a background information.
Mm-hmm.
Most churches were planted by missionaries.
Mm-hmm.
Like the traditional churches were brought in by missionaries. And then from the missionaries, we then have our conservative churches that branched out
Missionaries.
from the ministries.
Mm-hmm.
From these missionary
Missionaries.
churches.
Mm-hmm.
And then from these mainstream churches branched out the ministries.
Mm-hmm.
That's the modern day. I think in the context of American churches, I'd say it's the churches where that now you see people are dressing more in casual clothes, the Elevation Church, I've forgotten their names, but the pastors are much more relevant in
Mm-hmm.
they have embraced the urban culture. So when I came with the earrings and
Mm-hmm.
casual appearance on
Mm-hmm.
Sunday, that was frowned
Upon.
upon. Like
Mm-hmm.
people did not like that, but we were consistent such that the culture is catching up with decisions we made in 2004
Mm-hmm.
back in the day. So now we are becoming relevant. It's
Mm-hmm.
like we are being embraced by the development, and we're hoping it is
Mm-hmm.
going to tell and it's going to benefit our ministry in the coming times.
Most of the time you are working with the youth. You
Yes.
are trying to support and guide the youth.
Hmm.
How is that venture, Pastor?
It's getting more complicated due to the negative influence of social media, of entertainment, and how the wrong kind of morals are being promoted the most, and how we are failing to ground young people to positive and good morals
Mm-hmm.
because we have not capacitated ourselves with the same skills that social media avails.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like we need to flood these spaces with an I'd say an option.
Mm-hmm.
Give the young people option. Let's flood TikTok, let's flood Facebook, let's flood Instagram with positive messages,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
with academic sites and all that. I feel like
Mm-hmm.
there needs to be more of that. If you can borrow from the Chinese culture, in their social media, there is a lot of positive, less twerking. Do you understand? And I'm telling you, if you can open your phone now, the algorithm is bad.
Mm-hmm.
You will see nudity before the sunset.
Mm-hmm.
It's that bad. So you do not blame the young people because the old people can't use the devices they buy these young people. So the young person has a phone that their parents cannot operate.
Mm-hmm.
They
And they're
surf
doing.
even over 18 sites. Another thing that kept us back in the day, kissing was taboo. It would be I don't know what would allow a kissing scene to be on television.
Mm.
Other stations would actually blank the screen
Mm-hmm.
for a kiss, not a bedroom scene.
They wouldn't say close your eyes.
No, that would be if it's sort of like, that was later when they say close your eyes, but it was a kiss.
Because then they'd started revealing there was no longer a blank.
No, it just it's bad now. It's bad. There are things you watch on Facebook, and back in the day, this would not have been for public consumption. So that we are beginning to reap the fruits of being negligent. So I work with young people who are lost, who are broken, but you can tell that from the depth of their heart that they don't really mean to be negative kids. I mean, in our case, there would be no suicide cases. I mean, we grew up with people who were poor, people who be poor that come to school smelling like they can't take a bath. Or you'd find that a person before they come to school, they have to take the kettles to the mountain before they
Before
come to
coming to
school.
school.
Already they come smelling like an old man. But no one would kill themselves.
But now that's not happening.
It's the order of the day. My wife is dealing with a suicidal child. She's in form. Oh,
Grade.
she's in middle school. I nearly said form, but I was told that my viewers may not understand that. But she's middle school, and she's battling seriously with suicide.
Hey,
I wouldn't even get to the sexual promiscuity. It's so bad.
it's too much. But have you seen a change with the youth that you work with? Do you see a change to say deep down inside these children are not like this?
We are
they
not doing
they
enough.
need more.
Spe. We are not doing enough. And the enemy, the devil, I don't know who's going to watch, but he's made sure that the resources go to promote his agendas. So you'd find that if I were to speak about issues where we could actually stop a problem before it begins, that would not be funded. They'd wait until the flies are on the faces, until the child shows
That's true.
their rib cage outside. Then
That's
there's
true.
but now, what are you helping? Because living and surviving are just two different things. If we were pursuing life, we'd move away from just trying to survive. So I've seen a lot of that. There are people who mean good, but they are not informed enough for us to know. Yeah.
Before we close, before we say goodbye,
Yes.
I would like us to touch a bit on, in the past few months, Eswatini has reported having 141 cases gender-based violence. Looking at this increase, you go back to say what has changed. In the 80s, did you have this many cases? Was it something that was so prominent, or was culture helping our men and women avoid this?
We had big rugs back in the day, sweeping things under the rug. We had big rugs. We had ways to hide a lot, especially in the family structure, because the way our family upbringing was so conservative, you'd find that there would be cases of gender-based violence, but there would not be.
Dividend.
Yeah. How are you going to explain it?
Dividend, hiding things under
Yeah,
the rug.
under the rug. There was a lot of things being hidden under the rug. Even cases of infidelity, they were discussed among the families, and the family would continue and they would move on. Like it would be something in the, like it would not be
be
an
known,
issue.
but-
Yeah, because the families played a major role in the upbringing of either the woman or the man. So she would respect the parents to the point that even if the parents disapproved of a partner, he would comply with the
there's
wishes of
nothing
the
I can
family.
do.
Yes, but then the positive thing about present day is there is no case that can go unreported in the sense of social media. You cannot control what people post there. That the graphic details though are really traumatic. I saw a woman being stabbed on Facebook by a boyfriend. I'll show you.
Who's
I hope
recording?
someone by the window.
My goodness. And
Yeah,
there's
it
nothing they
happened
can
in
do.
a university,
Oh.
at a university, but it was in South Africa. but it got here because of social media. I'm saying the coverage is there.
Yes, yes.
Another thing is one thing I hate about present day culture is there is no more accountability to the family from the couple. So a man can do whatever he wants with the woman and get away with it. In our culture, that was unheard of. So there is no way a man would bash a woman's eye in, because this woman would go home and they'll see that what happened to your eye?
And
Are you a pirate now? And say no, he smashed my eye in, and that would be an issue. I know cases of a, a family where they invited the brother-in-law, and they told the brother-in-law's family that we're going to end this violence once and
relationship.
for all. They invited him for meat, and they told him, "You've been beating our sister, and today it's your day. Eat." After they've had the meal, they took him into a room and they clobbered him. And they came back and they finished the meal with him. And
Do you think that
that
is
was
what we need now?
violence. I
Not
hate
violence, but someone to
accountability. Yes,
yes.
we need that. But like
Because
I'm saying, we are becoming a lawless community. It's not just something that you sort of like put to gender-based violence. Everything is just falling off. For instance, issues of gender-based violence speaks about weak men, and it speaks about also weak women. So we are a weak culture. You do not resort to violence. I mean, where is self-value? Yeah, so those are the cases where I feel like community is sick. If I would bring in the Bible context, is we are busy dressing ourselves with leaves instead of seeking for forgiveness. Like Adam and Eve in the garden, they realized they're naked. Instead of saying, you know what, let's stand here, let's let's face the consequences. They try to. And how long are you going to have leave apron? So every solution you come up with as humankind won't last. It will just it's all. We can't solve our problems. Yeah.
uh, in the beginning of this beautiful interview, you mentioned that you work with the youth. You
Yes.
have a youth camp,
Yes.
Camp Suguma.
Summer Camp Suguma. Yes,
Summer Camp
ma'am.
Suguma. How long has it been?
It is old as my wedding. I mean, my marriage. It is as old as I've been doing summer camps for the past 19 years. 2004 will be the 20th year. We have been doing summer camp for that long.
2024.
2024. What did I say?
You said 2004.
2024. Yeah. 2024 will be our 20th year. And the good thing is we use the arts as a tool of communication and capacitation. So the young people relate with arts. I mean, poetry and raps, same bracket, creativity, music, dance. So we cannot blame the medium. All we need to do is to put the right message in the medium. So we've been doing that for 20 years. Yes.
So 2023 into 2024, when is the next Camp Suguma?
We're crossing over into camp. We're starting on the 31st of December to the 5th of January. And the way that makes camp successful is because what we learn throughout the week, we apply on the last day. So it's not like you
Just come dancing.
you've just given the kids the skills. You actually see if they've received the skills, which inform us on how we plan the next camp. So we've been hosting camps. Unfortunately, our resources do not stretch to cover all the things we want to do.
So if I would love to sponsor or sign up for Camp Suguma, where do I go?
I'm sure
Which link do I click on?
I'm sure Peek into Eswatini would help. But I'm Thethe Crestu on
Facebook.
Facebook. We have also on Facebook we have a page, Summer Camp Suguma. We have an Instagram account, Summer Camp Suguma. I believe those you'd get enough information from those pages for you to assist and help.
Thank you so much for tuning in today. Thank you, Pastor Thethe, for spending your time with us. Please do go to Facebook and find Pastor Thethe Crestu. find Camp Suguma. We would love and appreciate you sponsoring us, coming together to
Please.
help us,
Please.
encouragement. And don't forget to subscribe to Peek into Eswatini. Every Thursday we will be airing. Have a good day ahead. Bye.
Thank you so much, Pastor Thethe, for sharing such an inspiring story with us. You've encouraged us to do better and want to have a close relationship with God. We've seen that it is not only what you portray on the outside, it is but what you have on the inside. So we are very much grateful for having you today. Next week, we'll be having Queeneth Dubegama as our guest speaker. Please do subscribe on our YouTube channel, Facebook, and Instagram. Like, share, and comment. Thank you so much. Bye.